Good evening. We'll call this meeting to order. And just for information, this meeting is recorded for audio and visual. Uh, The commissioners will take the business heard tonight when they meet on October 15th at 9 a.m. here in this room. Are there any changes to the agenda that is posted tonight?
Mr. Chair, we had an applicant withdraw. 100 Acre Woods Trust, Addie's Acres, can be removed from the agenda. The applicant actually withdrew.
All right. With that removal, with that withdrawal, can I get a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
As moved by Butch,
I'll second.
second by, I'm sorry,
Dave?
Dave. Thank you, Dave. Seconded by Dave. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Great.
The first agenda item tonight is for Brent Barr. I'm sorry? Thank you very much. Looking at the previous minutes from the August meeting, any changes, any observations?
They look good.
They look good. Is that a motion for
That
approval?
is a motion.
All right, motion for approval. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Francine, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and thank you for that. First agenda item is Brent Barr. We've got property owner requesting an interim use permit for occasional special event. This is 24324 169th Street Northwest in Big Lake. And it's in a section called Palomino Acres. We've got section 28, township 34 north, range 27. It's on 5.97 acres in the general rural district. The application is deemed complete. And Mitch, will you take this one?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. As you mentioned, Brent Barr, he is requesting an interim use permit for occasional special event. History with this one is that we did receive a complaint in 2022 regarding an event happening without any permits from the county. After reaching out to the property owner, it was determined that the events are held each year and they are to host events for fundraisers for the Jets cheerleaders, Big Lake Boy Scouts, Zimmerman High School Drama, and others, with 70% of the proceeds going to these groups. The applicant did go in front of the Orac Township. Orac Township recommended approval of the IUP, provided all county requirements are met. Thank you, Carrie. So we did receive a site plan from the applicant showing parking along the township road. So that was sent back to ORAC. We did hear back from ORAC on September 11th that their actual comments were they'd be fine with parking along one side of the road as long as there is traffic control and they do not allow parking on the opposite side of the street. So those are the comments from ORAC for the proposed parking on the road. But we did work with the applicant when we went out to do a site inspection. It was determined there was a solid waste violation, and the septic needed a compliance. The septic failed the compliance. The applicant has since upgraded the septic system. The solid waste has since been cleaned up, so he is in compliance with the solid waste ordinance. This was a little bit of a process. The applications are deemed denied 1 year from the date of application, but he did show continual progress to get it to compliance. There are 20 structures on the property for the trail. 16 are walk-through and 4 that are walk-by. One of the concerns for staff is just that these structures are structurally sound so that when people do walk through them, there's no risk for injury. So that's just one concern. We do have a condition that a professional design is to inspect the buildings and then provide a report to our building official prior to any events commencing. In the years past, they're expecting up to 2,000 guests with as many as 125 guests at one time. Parking, there are 38 parking spots on the property with 12 parking spaces along the township road. Under the provision, the site plan submitted could accommodate parking for 114 visitors on the site. If parking along the road is permitted, which it is on that side per OROC, they could have up to 150 visitors. They do have two waste, a 2-yard dumpster by Ace, and then portable toilets are provided by Ruck Sanitary. We have seen years past, he does have liability insurance, but other than that, in the conditions, we do have 16 recommended conditions. As you can see, a few of them are blank. The hours of operation, we left blank because we didn't get any specific hours from the applicant. And then the maximum number of people using it is blank. That is up for discussion. One thing I would add, if we could, is a condition per OROC's comments that if approved or recommended for approval, that we do add that they put no parking signs on the side of the road that they cannot park on, to clearly state that there are no parking. I would even do as far as some of the neighbors on his side too, or maybe not on his side, but specifically the no parking per the site plan received. Other than that, the applicant is in the audience and he is here to answer any questions, so.
All right. Applicant is here. Will you step to the mic, state your name, address?
Barr. Brent Barr,
Address, please.
24324 169th Street, Big Lake, Minnesota.
All right. And you host this event, obviously Halloween season?
Correct, yep, yep.
All right. Do you have anything to add to what Mitch has already stated?
Well, I just had yesterday, I had a structural engineer look at the buildings, and there are a few changes I need to make, but it's nothing that I can't be done before Halloween here. We can get it done fairly soon, so we should be in compliance as far as what the structural engineer recommended. So the building should be good.
Okay.
I've got insurance, I just contacted them. They're working on a policy right now for me, so I should have insurance again.
All right. With the conditions that were stated, there were 3. Mitch would like to add a 4th. That would be the no parking signs. So total of 4, Mitch?
17.
Oh,
Proposed, so that'll be 17 with the no parking. And then we need to fill in the blanks on a couple.
oh, okay. I'm sorry. 17. I was not keeping up. And with the 17 conditions, you understand the conditions and you,
Yeah, and we did that last year. We had no parking signs on the other side of the road, yeah. So we'll do that again. Yeah, no problem there, yeah.
all right. Does the board have any questions for our applicant? Hearing no questions, I would like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak to this? Please step to the podium and state your name and address.
Clint Peterson, 24325 169th Street, directly across the street. You can take out a bunch of them parking things because of his new mound system in his yard. From like that bush.
Yep, that's for.
Yep. And I don't think you can get any between the mound and the street. Other than on the street. And in my opinion, and bunch of the other neighbors that couldn't be here tonight, say it should not be in a residential area. It's just the extra traffic. The people that come, they don't care where they throw out their trash. It's ridiculous. The noise of the thing, whoever's traffic control over there drives around with a little winky light. People coming and going, shining lights up and down my driveway. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't be allowed. There's trash in the ditch. I know they try to pick it up, but there's still trash in the ditch a half a mile away from it. And it shouldn't be there. It isn't even set up enough to get his garbage truck in his driveway without driving in my driveway and backing into his for the dumpster. And he has the dumpster all year. So that's all I have to say is it shouldn't be there,
All right,
so.
all right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in the open forum? Yes, sir.
Clint Peterson again, just the younger version. I'm at 23854 170th Street, so I'm actually roughly about a mile away. I've seen the garbage from it turn up in my ditch from the food concessions and everything. Part of my concerns are they actually route the traffic off of County Road 10 and through 170th to 169th, and which brings it all of the traffic by approximately 20 homes, whereas the traffic could be route, and then the vehicles are also heading in the wrong direction for parking along the determined parking side. Whereas if the traffic would have been brought in through 245th on to 169th off of County Road 15, the traffic would be flowing in the correct direction to actually be parking where the parking is and to be on the right side of the road for where the venue is. There again, I'm in agreement with, I don't believe a public thing like this should be held in a residential area. I thought that's what zoning was for, but that is where it is. But like I say, my concerns are some of the same as the rest, but my other concern I wanted to bring up was the traffic flow of why we would bring the traffic past more homes than we have to in an area if we're going to allow something in a residential area. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak to this matter? We'll just take a roll. Anybody else, second time? And any other members, a third time? Hearing none, I'd look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
So moved, and
Second.
we have a motion and a second to close. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Any recommendations, any discussion on the board on this matter?
Should we fill in those blanks?
We certainly can.
I've got a question for Mr. Barr.
Yes. Mr. Barr, could you approach the podium?
That routing the traffic seems to be a concern, and I can see it's a viable concern. Is that, if we were to ask you to change that, is that a deal breaker, or?
No, it wouldn't be a deal breaker. There was already a signpost available, so I do have a sign on County Road 10 there. And so a lot of them go that way, but not everybody goes that way. We got other signs too.
I would think that if we could, I think it would certainly improve the traffic. I've never been there, so I can't, but it would improve the traffic flow if the people don't have to turn around in your neighbor's driveway to get pointed in the right direction to park alongside
Okay.
the road. And also if you can eliminate driving past 10 or 15 less houses, you'd be probably a little better neighbor for doing that also, I would believe, Mr. Barr. So those are two things I would suggest that we would consider. That's all I got to say.
All right, thank you. One of the items here, it's item 12, it says there will be a maximum of, and we have a blank there as far as people attending. I believe that's what our other member here was talking about, filling in the blanks. Is that true, Steve?
Yes, there's
All right,
one on 12 and also one on 3.
one on 12, one on 3.
And just to clarify, Mr. Chair, he's just requesting just the month of October, Fridays and
Right.
Saturdays.
And it's only 8 days out of the year, and Fridays and Saturday nights. So it's not during the week.
Friday and Saturday night through the month of October.
Yep.
That answers question number 3.
So we got that already, it's just the time we need.
what is the closing time on this?
We've been closing about 9:30 or so yeah, so we can get, so everybody can get through there by 10, be out by 10,
Okay.
yeah.
And so then the attraction is cleared out by 10?
Try and clear it out by 10 o'clock, yeah.
All right.
So it'd start whenever it get, dark, which about 7:30 this time of year, so.
All right, maximum number of people. How can you limit that?
So the parking will limit that. So we did the calculations, and if you can only have on-site parking, it's 114 visitors. With the parking on the street, they can have up to 50 visitors.
All right, what of the matter that some of the parking spaces proposed
Could you repeat
aren't
that?
available?
Then it would be reduced. So he's only, sorry, what? The number,
Yeah, could you
okay,
repeat?
so based off the calculations for what was provided, if he only had parking on the property, it'd be 114 visitors. If he had parking on the property and the road, which OROC okayed, they can have up to 150 visitors. But in years past, they said they've had as many as 125 guests at a time. So that's more than what they've had in the past, just based off the parking, but
And getting back to how many actual parking spaces are there if there's been a change in the septic system on some of those?
that was already accounted for in the parking with this no parking right here.
Okay,
That-
so that,
But
I think someone should go to the site at
You
that
need to
point.
go look at that. The ones between your vehicle path line and the road, that vehicle path line goes roughly through the middle of his mound. And it's a pretty fair sized mound.
It's a large mound because it's a large multi-bedroom house. So I personally, that one I think should have to be revisited, the site,
Yes,
to verify, because
So, again, 150 with the street, 114 with just on-site. So if we eliminated the street, we'd still be at 114 visitors, or to have 125 at a time in the past.
could I ask one of the Petersons to go to Mike for,
you can do it.
thank you. In your estimation, how many on-site parking spots aren't available? How many have we lost, I should say?
Well, if you don't wanna drive on the taper of the mound even, I would say you probably lost 10 parking spots. I'd say the west side of the mound goes really close to that bush where it says no parking.
Yep.
And it goes probably at least to the right side of the red that. And you might be able to, if you diagonal them in between there and the road, you might be able to get them in and get out if there was a way to turn them around and get out.
Okay. Your estimation is we've lost 10 of the proposed spots.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And then Mitch, you're saying that by losing 10 spots, we might drop from 125 to 114? Is that?
Correct, yeah, there's about 12 parking spots on the road they proposed. So you would lose, if you lost 10, then basically we'd be down to 114 visitors, give or take,
Okay,
as opposed to the 150.
all right. Mr. Barr, what would your event be if you were limited to 114 visitors at a time?
We could probably do that, all right. The other choice would be to see if there's any place I can put any more parking spots too. That's another
On this,
option.
and from what we've heard is that these are cars parking. Do you have people that drop kids off and then pick them up, or are they all?
Not so much, but a lot of the times, there are, you can have as many as 5 or 6 people in one car. A lot of times there's a lot of kids and that coming out, so it's not that as many cars as you would think as compared to the number of people.
All right, any other observations or questions from the board?
Mr. Barr, how many parking spots or where would staff park?
I've had them in the back side of the house and that too. And that's another thing I was thinking about. Yeah, I can find a space for the volunteers to park different, so that would leave more space. Right now, they have been using some of the same spots, so I could do that. There's some other places I can have them park, yeah, besides what's shown on there.
How many volunteers do you have on a given night?
It varies a lot, but you know, a lot of times those are kids that are dropped off, but they're teenagers, because the Boy Scouts, a lot of times they just drop them off, and so that's not really cars, but we've had as many as probably 25 teenagers that are volunteering, and then you know, another maybe 10 adults, something like that. At the most, I'd probably about the most.
All right, any other observations, questions from the board? All right, thank you, Mr. Barr. You can,
I could add, just to add, I can do more, you know, as far as making sure everything's cleaned up. And there's one of the guys that works at security cart that runs around quite a bit with the cart. I can probably tell him not to do that unless, you know, we want the cart there for emergency or something, but not maybe to be running around as much as he does. I can do that, so that would eliminate that. Okay.
all right,
And I would just say in this site, this aerial, as you can see, there's a car right there, so these spots are pretty accurate of what sizing should be for them.
all right. Thank you, Mitch. What are the wishes of the board? I'm sorry, let me go back. In filling in that second line, which is item 12, would the board like to see a maximum set on this? And if so, what is the number?
I believe that the traffic will take care of the number of people. I think, I think that's kind of a moot point. If it can handle the people, if it can handle the cars, I would assume that operation would be able to handle the people. So I would think in my opinion, the vehicle traffic would be the limiting factor. I may be wrong, but
Yeah, it's kind of hard to predict how many people will be in each car, but usually a lot of times it's a carload of kids that come out. And, yeah.
All right,
We've had a number in there previously, though.
We have not. He provided about 125 guests at a time.
Okay, so it was not a stipulation on the previous.
don't believe there was
was
an
none.
agreement previous. This is the first application for,
This is the first application?
Yep.
Okay.
so we're in new territory. Then let's go at it from a little different angle. Does the board want to insert a number? We have item number 12, and it is one of the conditions, and I feel that we should insert a number in there, a guideline. And you know, if some vehicles have multiple people and the site can handle them,
Yeah.
if we stated in there 115 people, anybody good with that?
That's reasonable.
All right, it's down from the 150.
I mean, is the number that we're looking at appropriate for this type of IUP? I mean, because there are other facilities that do this. Are those restricted to a number also?
I don't know that we currently have any that I'm aware of. Mitch, help me with this. In the county where we have a haunted
Not a haunted,
farm
we have,
or acres that's currently permitted that we're aware of. There was one in Zimmerman that was permitted a
Yeah.
number of years ago, but that is no longer in operation.
there's a new one in Livonia that was permitted a few years ago.
there another
I think
one?
that had a
Okay.
number tied to it, but if, this is either, we can fill it in, or if you don't feel it's fit, you can strike it. It was just staff's recommendation.
All right,
I just don't know if it sounds a little bit restrictive and unforceable.
it would be really tough. Yeah,
Could you limit it to the parking only on the property that they show on the plans? And then, I can't remember, Mitch, did you say 12 parking spots along the road on the north side of 169th Street Northwest? And that's it. However many people you can wedge into a car to accommodate to have enough parking is what you get. So there could be 6 people in a car, but you can't have more than that parking lot fills.
I agree with that. I think that the number of people will be regulated by how fast they can go through there, and if the cars allow 180 people there, they're still only gonna be able to flow through there at a certain speed, I would think, you know. And maybe I'm wrong with that, so I really believe that the cars are gonna delegate the traffic flow.
So if we could somehow wordsmith it that the number of people on site cannot exceed available parking spots on the property and 12 parking spots along the north side of 169th Street Northwest,
Would actually be
then
the west
that
side.
should contain what could be there. Does that make sense?
I think that would,
yes, Dave?
Also, you have the 25 volunteers and all, then you got the concession workers and the vending workers too. So are those included in that 20, the people, maximum number of people?
I'm assuming that the maximum number of people, it says using the property. Excellent point on your observation. Are they using the property, or are we talking customers?
I would say customers. I would assume that's what the applicant is looking for.
Right, I would assume that as well.
And I think if you want a number, I would throw that 150 number out there. And, because I'd hate to have them be reprimanded if there's 118 instead of 114 there. And how are you gonna count? How are you gonna count them anyway?
Right.
It'd be difficult.
I understand, yeah.
I would prefer not to put a number and utilize what Lynn had suggested.
Which is,
The,
Parking
Let-
dictated.
yeah,
right. So as far as item 12 goes, would you, we would not be able to fill that in with a number, that would just.
We would eliminate that and instead state that the number of people allowed on the property would be determined by the number of parking spots available on the property plus 12 additional parking spots on the north side of 169th Street Northwest.
It'll be west side.
West side, yeah.
This
Oh, I'm
is-
sorry, I thought that north was up. It's not?
Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong map. On the west side of 169th Street Northwest.
All right. So I think that making 12, well, eliminate 12. Is that it?
Correct, and, well, and replace it with the wording I just stated.
Okay, okay.
We'll still have 17.
All right, so we don't lose a finding.
Correct,
We just rewrite the.
kind of
finding.
amend it.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
And then,
And then we'd caution the property owner that he just put in that brand-new septic system, and it'll be in his best interest to ensure that nobody's driving across it, nobody's parking on it, because as he's probably aware, the cost is very expensive to put in a septic system. You don't want to have to replace that again.
yep, we do have a condition that he must rope it off or,
Yeah, we can rope it off or
Right.
fence it off, yeah.
hours of operation, were those 7:30 to 10? 7:30 PM to 10 PM, or? What did we?
I think that's what it came
That-
out to be.
That's what I don't know about the 7:30.
It's,
Yeah, it's 7:30, usually it gets dark at 7:30, that's kind of when we start, yeah.
I think people will show up you know, here again, the people are gonna show up before 7:30, if it's dark at 7:30. Some young ones may be there at, just at dusk, and I would like to say, I don't know if you can say a half hour before sunset, like they do for some hunting, or if you can do 7 o'clock, or,
I think if you
Because
go
it moves
7 to
as the month
10.
goes.
Yeah,
right,
because there will be vendors, so if people get there early for concessions or vendors.
And we might open up, actually, we did that last year, open up early for one weekend, one day actually, for younger kids to come in so they can come in there. But,
All right,
yeah, many.
So you do that one time during the
one
month
time,
of
yeah.
October, and what time do you open for younger kids?
It's been like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and just be for in the afternoon for a little bit.
So you want to give us the hours of that, so we make sure we
Uh,
include that in
Do
there?
that. We could do that, we could, yeah, last time I think it was like 2 to 4 or something like that, yeah,
Between 2 and 4,
Yeah.
one weekend day
right,
during the month of October,
right,
so that younger kids could
yeah,
participate.
right,
Is that a
yeah.
Saturday?
A Saturday, yeah, yeah.
So you
Yeah, I'd
probably
like
want to
to
either
add
add
some-
that to a condition, but we don't want to just know that they're doing it without putting it in writing so
Yeah.
that it's very clear.
So one Saturday per the month of October, hours will be 2 to 4 PM for children.
all right. I believe that we had moved to 17 conditions prior to that
This could-
recommendation. Are we up to 18
This
now?
could piggyback off of 3,
I'm sorry?
this could go off, on number 3,
Oh, okay, all right. So we're at 17 conditions,
17.
okay.
Mr. Chair, how do we address policing the roads as far as debris and garbage?
That's an excellent question, and to our applicant, did you hear his statement or his question?
Yes, I mean, yeah, we definitely want to check it out. I didn't know of anything being that far away, a mile away. I mean, that's quite a ways, but I didn't realize that, but, I mean, we can check it out, the road out. It might be hard to see things at night, but we definitely, right away in the morning or something next morning, make sure there's nothing in the ditches or like that, in that area.
Should that be added as a condition?
I would imagine that is the way to do it.
Yep.
It would be difficult to get it picked up, difficult slash, more,
And I'm just
Putting
saying,
someone
I
in
don't know how good of a
parallel.
job I can do at night, it's,
yeah.
yeah, right.
Condition number 11 is the applicant shall ensure all waste generated at the property is properly disposed of by a licensed hauler. We can build off that as far as,
We could add that collection along whichever roads have been affected should take place the next day by a certain time, or after the day following each event, I should say. My concern is for the neighborhood, those around it. You can't control people throwing things out of their car, it's obvious.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, a mile away, is it from or from anybody going by, how would I know? I mean, that's
Well,
Yes,
if it gathers if it gathers during the month of October and it doesn't
right,
gather
yeah,
other
I'd
months.
be responsible for it, I guess, anyway, right?
But having the event, it leaves you responsible for the activity of your patrons. And I think it also puts a little stress on the neighborhood. The parking's tight. I have a heart for the neighbors who live in a residential area. That's a lot of cars to put up with for the whole month. And, activity, the noises, the lights, the turning cars. Not everybody drives responsibly. So as it is right now, we have some additions to the conditions we have. We have a total of 17 conditions. You understand all the conditions?
Yes, I do, yep.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I've got a comment to make. Halloween 2024, sunset is at 5:50 PM. So which would make this Friday night before would be 5:55, so it's a little later possibly, but I would think, I think those hours are gonna have to be tweaked, because you said you wanna start at 7:30, well, if it gets dark at 5:50, sunsets at 5:50, follow what I'm saying? They're gonna be there before. Does that make sense to you?
It makes sense, yes.
So
Mitch, how do you feel about that?
it gets dark early, so, I mean, and people are probably gonna show up early, so I
mean-
think we gotta be realistic, because these are gonna be enforceable conditions, that if people are there at 5 and it's not supposed to start until 7, then
I mean, I would think that we'd,
I mean, my advertising, I'll keep it to 7:30, but I mean, if somebody shows up, some people waiting in a car or something, I don't know what we can.
I think we should, I mean, that's putting the, even though it's his deal, it should be part of his burden. I do think that the hours should be changed till, I mean, you can still walk around at sunset and it's kind of light, but I would think that the latest would want them to, the earliest we'd want to not allow them would be sunset, for sure. I mean, if it's 5:50 sunset, we'd want them to be able to be there at 5:50 is my
It's
point.
realistic to anticipate people arriving,
Correct.
so we should put that in the hours.
Well, I mean, that's my suggestion, but
When do you start your
I've been
tours?
starting at 7:30, yeah. Yeah, I mean, some people would, I could see a few people showing up, but it's not usually that many. Might show up a little bit earlier, but they know when it's advertised, so, yeah.
I mean, if it's not open,
I
it's
would
not
like to-
open, but.
I would like to still see it left at 7 and encourage these people not to show up with the hours.
Yeah,
I don't know, an hour and a half, early is.
I understand, but I just want to get it right there the first time.
But what you're saying is officially, the attraction opens at 7:30.
Right.
right.
And if people do start to assemble,
I mean, you are gonna have volunteers, obviously, long before that, so, yeah. But, won't be visitors, so,
all right?
I mean, 7 would be fine with me.
We certainly could move it to 7. We're only quibbling over a half an hour,
Right,
so 7's okay?
I'm fine with 7, just so you're aware of it. the
right, yep.
point.
All right. Mitch, could you make that note to the conditions, that hours of operation, 7 until 10?
yes.
Okay,
7 PM, 10 PM,
all right.
and
Uh,
then we're gonna do one Saturday a month, hours to be 2 to 4, 2 PM to 4 PM for children tours.
Right.
Correct.
Yep,
And then for waste, we have the applicant shall ensure all waste generated at the property is properly disposed of by a licensed hauler. All trash must be picked up. Is there a time that you wanted
The following day,
following day?
following each event, there should be a trash collection in the ditches
okay.
or the neighborhood area.
Following the event immediately or the next?
That, I think it can go on the next day. Picking up in the dark
Yeah,
is
exactly.
gonna be, I think, a problem.
The following day. Okay.
What are the wishes of the board? Yes, sir.
One question I've got is, if this is an IUP that's gonna be just for 1 month, and we've got 18 conditions, I'm concerned about how are we going to evaluate this for next year, if this comes back? Are we gonna just let these conditions go? Are we gonna reevaluate this again? How long is this IUP gonna be going for? My concern is there could be dramatic changes to this or residential concerns, special events like this are challenging and they're not gonna go away. I just don't want it to happen again next year and it's just status quo. I mean, one of the conditions I would like to see is this to be reevaluated after the first year before the second year is implemented. I think that would be fair.
Do you want to reevaluate it, bring it back in front of the planning commission?
Yeah, not that he has
reapply?
to pay for another IUP or anything like that, but just reevaluate the whole, what transpired, what happened. I have a lot of concerns about the parking on a township road. I think all of us do. I mean, in the dark on a township road, can't fathom that right now, but I understand the limitness of it, but I understand the residential concern. I also applaud the fact that all the proceeds of this are a fundraiser, basically. This isn't a business. This is more of a fundraiser because 70% he's returning by his notes that he's returning to the patrons at, you know, to special organizations, Boy Scouts, Drama Club, things of that nature. So I understand that. I applaud that. But I'm concerned about, you know, the residents and putting this into the middle of a residential area. And I think you should consider, one of the conditions should be that this should be reevaluated in the future before it's implemented, just ongoing. Is my thought.
By the planning commission or planning and zoning?
Well, planning and zoning, I would guess it would be up to them. One of the conditions, it has to be reevaluated, because you could have,
I would like to see planning and zoning reevaluate, and if necessary, bring it back to us.
okay, something should be in there for a
I
reevaluation.
don't think it needs to automatically come back to us.
Right. If they have dramatic concerns. That's all I'm just bringing it out for discussion.
So that'd be a follow-up, the follow-up would occur in November, December, following the event, once it is closed in October. The interested parties could be alerted. And Lynn, how do you see that happening?
We haven't done something like that before, but we could contact the applicant and talk to him about how it went, see if we received any complaints from neighbors, and provide him with feedback as to some of our concerns, if there are any, or no, it went much better this year, and work with him to try to alleviate any future issues.
I think that would also pacify the neighbors that are concerned if this is going to flow. They've got concerns now, and by working with the conditions we set forth, hopefully it lessens the burden on them, and it could be positive. I think we owe that to the neighbors also.
Because this is only for 1 month. I mean, it's not like it's an ongoing process that we could make adjustments on the fly as they needed. This is something that's just gonna end at 1 month and start up again in October again of next year, if so be it. That's my concern.
Mr. Chair, I have a question about the timing.
Yes.
So it gets approved or recommended tonight, but then it doesn't go in front of the county board until mid-October. So we're already going to be missing half a month, correct?
That's absolutely correct.
So this year, he cannot operate until after county board approval, which his first night would be October 18th then.
Thank you.
Which, obviously leaves you, 2 weeks, or is it a third? How the calendar runs?
Looks like it'd be 2 weekends.
Okay.
And it cuts it out quite a bit, yeah.
And you're aware of that too?
I wasn't aware of that, no.
Okay.
But,
Having only 2 weekends, if everything goes off according to this plan, are you still wishing to proceed?
yes.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Commissioner Gray was mentioning that this be reviewed. Would that be condition number 18?
Correct.
All right, you got that? What are the wishes of the board?
I think it's a community service. I think he's doing a good job, and I think with the conditions, if it doesn't go smooth this year, the neighbors can talk to Mitch, and we'll have to come up with a plan. Otherwise, I like the idea. I know it went over well in Zimmerman when they did it, and they raised a lot of money for the youth and the sports and the drama club and all that stuff. So it's a big fundraiser for them.
Do we want 18 to read, the IUP will be reevaluated in each year by planning and zoning? Or how do you want that worded?
I think that was,
Yeah.
that was the effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a motion for recommendation on this?
Mr. Chair, I would make a recommendation to approve the IUP with the 18 conditions as discussed.
All right, we have a motion with the 18 conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Yeah, findings.
We have findings.
Findings to read.
Thank you. Are you ready?
You ready?
We're ready.
All right, that the interim use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish and impair property values within the immediate vicinity.
Yes, the proposed use is not anticipated to diminish and impair values within the immediate area. There will be no more than 2 or 3 weekend events in the month of October, and the applicant proposed operations and conditions of this interim use permit shall mitigate potential impacts on neighboring property.
Number 2, that the establishment of the interim use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area.
Yes, the use will not impede normal development of this property or neighboring properties. Neighboring properties to the north, south, west, and east have been developed for single-family housing.
Number 3, that adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities have been or are being provided.
Yes, the use will not create a need of new utilities or access roads. Property size will allow adequate space for drainage and other necessary facilities.
Number 4, that adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide sufficient off-street parking and loading space to serve the proposed use.
Yes, the applicant has parking space to accommodate up to, are we still at 38?
I think we went down to
28. But he was gonna try to create
10
some more.
less, yeah. 38 was what was proposed. I think we reduced it by 10, so 28 on site.
Okay, to accommodate up to 28 parking spots on the property,
Yes.
with an additional 12 on County Road.
Township road.
Or to the Township Road to the west?
East,
East.
West.
169th Street.
On the west side of 169th Street.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about what side the property was.
That
To the
side.
property west of Park Inn. Number 5, that adequate measures have been or will be taken to prevent or control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, and vibrations, so that none of these will constitute a nuisance, and to control lighted signs and other lights in such a manner that no disturbance to the neighboring properties will result.
Yes, it is not anticipated to cause offensive odors, fumes, dust, and vibration to the immediate area that are not being addressed by the conditions of approval. The issue with noise could be addressed by the hours of operation approved by the conditions of this IUP. And I want to add that I believe that we've added a few stipulations that will address some of the concerns. And of course, with the review, I think that really helps.
All right, thank you. On this matter, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item, we have TJM Properties and requesting preliminary and final simple plat approval of Buck Point consisting of one lot. This is in 27345, 104th Street Northwest in Zimmerman. Section 1, Township 34, Range 26 West, Livonia Township, and consists of 40.45 acres in the general rural zoning district. Mitch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, TJM Properties is requesting to do a simple plat of one lot, including right-of-way, it's 3.44 acres, which will be 2.95 acres once that has been removed. It's from a 40.45 acre parcel, which is used for agricultural purposes. They are just requesting to split off the Existing residential house from the overall property. Livonia Township had favorable comments. Surveyor, county surveyor, all comments have been addressed. David Rodell, Assistant Public Works Director, the proposed plat is on County State Aid 19, which is a minor arterial with a driveway access spacing requirement of 660. The proposed lot has an existing access spacing guidelines to be met when developed. Access to the existing accessory building is acceptable until redevelopment occurs, so they are okay with the two accesses as they sit, does not benefit from a county ditch. And so the house was built in 1961. Septic was evaluated in 2024, was deemed compliant. The remnant piece had a few existing buildings that needed to be removed due to not creating any nonconformities. So the site inspection was completed on August 29th and confirmed that these buildings, the smaller ones, have been removed. The larger one, this land is assessed ag, so that larger one can remain due to the agricultural purposes. And other than that, the house is not meeting the setback to the right-of-way, so if it were destroyed, it would have to meet all current requirements. Wetland delineation was completed, there are no wetlands on the property. Other than that, the developer is in the audience and will
All right.
answer questions.
Will you step to the podium, please? State your name and address, please.
Good evening, Board. Todd Maloney, 10109 277th Avenue Northwest, Zimmerman, Minnesota.
All right. Do you have anything to add to what was stated by Mitch?
I think it was all covered.
All right. And the conditions that are listed, you understand them? They're,
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
And the encroachments are just a driveway right here that needs to be removed, which can be done just by tilling it up, and then there's a little split rail fence that goes in just a few 9 feet into the remnant piece. Those are the two
Okay.
encroachments.
Just a little housekeeping issue, huh?
Yeah, we can take care of that. They're just basically blocks, I think, with some timbers in between them, so it's pretty easily removed.
All right. Are there any questions from the board?
I have a question for Mitch.
Yes.
Can you explain the difference between the 3.4 down to the 2.9? What
Yep,
is that
so
difference?
as you can see with this, they have, the overall, it's 3.44 acres, but right here is dedicated right-of-way, which will make it, with removal of that, 2.95.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
I have one question. It's
Certainly, Ike.
on packet attachment D, property sketch.
Yep.
Just curious why parcel B wasn't identified as lot 1, Buck Point.
We've gotten this another time from the surveyor. They are basically calling out the parcel A for the remnant piece for the new legal description.
Yeah, that part I understood. I don't know why the actual proposed plat wasn't labeled on there,
Yep, I understand.
but it's a formality.
All right. Question answered, Ike?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other comments, questions from the board? Hearing none, I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak at the public hearing? Yes, sir. Please approach the podium.
Okay, my name's Kyle Quam. Live at 27154 103rd Street Northwest in Zimmerman. I guess I'm here just a little confused on what's going on. I live in the neighborhood just to the south of this property and actually own one of the bigger chunks of property that butts up to the south side of this one. And we're splitting off where the house is. Yep, that one, and then that weird shaped one, right, kinda, no, south. Yep, right there, I own those two properties. So if they're sectioning off around the house at 2.95 acres, The rest of the acreage, is that going to stay agricultural, or what's gonna happen with that?
Yeah, it's proposed to stay agricultural, so basically minimum size in the general rural is 20 acres, so as long as it's over 20 acres, it can remain meets and bounds, and according to the developer, it's gonna continue to be agricultural, and then that's why the big brown building can remain.
Okay,
And I would imagine at some point he's gonna develop that. We don't know when.
okay, yeah, that's kinda why I was here, I was assuming that it's probably gonna be developed, and I was wondering, you know, is that gonna affect traffic coming past my house on 103rd, or are they gonna open that up or whatever, and you know, obviously like to keep it, you know, bigger property and wildlife, everything going through there more, but.
Yep, and they can't do anything for at least 2 years with this, after this plat, so.
Okay.
All right, get your question answered then?
Yep, at least for next 2 years.
All right, I understand, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? And for formality, anyone else? Second time and a third. Looking for a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close.
A second.
We have a motion, we have a second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign, motion passes. What are the wishes of the board on this matter?
Be neat and clean, in my opinion. I recommend approval.
All right, we have a motion for approval, is there a
With
second?
the 4 conditions?
Yes,
With 4 conditions, yes?
yes.
Second.
Second by Ike. All right, in this, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Motion passes. On to agenda item number 3. Richard, is it Ackman or Achman?
Achman.
Achman, thank you. Richard Achman, requesting a conditional use permit for a personal storage building. This is at the address of 15920 225th Avenue, Northwest, Elk River. This is in Big Lake Township on 1.37 acres in the general rural district within the shoreland district of Birch Lake. Will you state your name and address?
First
Mr.
name
Achman?
Richard, last name Achman, 12901 Stone Ridge Road, Dayton, Minnesota, 55327.
All right, Mitch, you wanna?
Yeah, so the history with this one is, Mr. Achman?
Yep.
Can go into further, but this building right here was more or less destroyed by a tree. He did apply to have it rebuilt in the same location. However, once he reached out to the office, he was informed that he couldn't be rebuilt as it's over the property line and into the township right away. So the options were to move it back and apply for a conditional use permit to meet current ordinance standards. So he has combined all these lots. Is it this one, and this one? So they are combined, which is, we do like to see, because these are smaller lots that were obviously developed many years ago prior to a zoning ordinance. It also helps out with the impervious surface. So this is allowed on platted lots within the shoreland district of, like you said, Birch Lake. And he is requesting to build the 1,200 square foot building, meeting all the required setbacks. Currently with that building gone, there are no structures, wells, or septics on the property. Impervious surface is well below the 25%. And other than that, he is at the podium to answer any more questions.
All right, thank you, Mitch. Do you have anything to add to this?
No? Just-
All right, and you understand the 4 conditions?
Yep.
All right. Any questions from the board?
I'm trying to understand the setback on the left-hand side. Is that a road or a driveway?
That we would consider a right-of-way on the far, it's still township right-of-way. This one over here,
Yeah.
yep. So he's meeting the 67 to that one, 67 to this one, and 67 to this one. There's a lot of these old right-of-ways that we still have to go off the 67 foot setback to the right-of-way.
Things are old. Yeah, there's one on the other side too of the property, you can see.
Yep.
One of those same right-of-ways.
Right next to this, where the old building was.
Yeah, this is all right-of-way.
That little
Yeah,
stub
right
road.
there, yeah.
All of
And
this.
actually, that's all, like, that guy has that as like his driveway, pretty much.
What are the yellow dots for?
Oh, that's potentially the new house to be built.
Oh,
So on lots like this with a personal storage structure, if a house is available to be built in the future, they just have to demonstrate where it would be located.
but that would not meet the setback.
Not to the road to the west, no.
Okay.
It could up here.
That's your understanding?
That's all I
Okay.
got.
Any other observations, questions from the board on this one? Hearing none, I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here tonight to speak on this issue? Approach the podium, name and address, please.
Mark Greenland, 919 Bryan Court in St. Cloud. I work for structural. Richard had hired us to put up the shed. The one thing that I'd like to point out is basically where the old shed is, that's where the driveway would be put in with a culvert. We did get the township's information on that culvert, so that's, we would have that culvert for the drainage to go down through, because basically just to the southeast of that, there is a drainage, a culvert that goes underneath the road. So it'll keep that drainage. So that's accounted for as well.
Okay,
That's it.
all right, thank you. Nice to have a little additional information.
Yes.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? Anyone else?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Jessica Palmer, 15956 225th Avenue Northwest, Elk River. So how big is the shed? Is it gonna be the whole?
24.
Okay, and then
That green box.
the potential house, is that land buildable, do we even know? Or is that a separate meeting, or, cause
Yeah.
the right-of-way road, the neighbors that live up that, I'm not good with north, south, east, and west, so I'm up the road there. We care for that, so having another house built there in the potential yellow box there is a concern for us that already maintain that, because anytime it rains, that right-of-way is washed out. There's cables under now that are being exposed, gas line up above too, so it's like, I don't know if that's another topic that we're gonna have to address in the future on our own, but having more traffic there is a big concern.
All right, how you access your property, is it a street or a driveway?
So it's 225th, and then it's that right-of-way right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right,
The easement thing.
but who maintains the street going into your house? You said that you maintain the street.
Yep,
Would it be then?
me and the other neighbor, and, yeah, so we have a side-by-side, we've had a Bobcat, we bring in Class 5, whatever else, and
All
we're
right, so
maintaining the road.
I'm just fumbling over terms. It's not a street, it's a driveway, or it's an
Well,
access.
Yeah, we were told, I don't know the correct terms, but,
Probably an easement.
yeah,
Township easement.
Unmaintained
Mhm.
easement.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I believe according to looking at that plat, it looks like that is Township Road right away, that road that runs north-south. Who plows the road in the wintertime?
My husband.
Yeah, or they have to, that's what I should say, yeah.
Okay.
Because this, in my township, I don't recognize this as a street that we maintain.
Okay.
So I'm-
Don't.
I'm referencing this as a driveway.
Right.
All right.
I know we've only lived there 5 years, so, the people who lived there prior brought it to the township's attention, cause they must have went to the county, and then they said to go to the township, cause that's always a constant battle, it seems. And they kinda just were like, maintain it yourself, I guess. I mean, I don't know, so here we are. I mean, I haven't
Right.
went
these-
anything further, but
Some of these older areas around lakes in particular have some really difficult access points.
yeah.
Would you, Mr. Ockman, would you be then sharing this right-of-way for your entrance?
Right now, I'm not even going down that road at all. That has nothing. to
Yeah,
do with
and
me at
that's,
all.
yeah, but if there's gonna be in the future a house,
Then I would take care of that, like what they're doing. I'd have to
All right.
help out, if that would be the case.
And so,
67 feet.
and what we're into right now is the shed showing.
Yeah,
in
we're
the
nothing to
green
do with the
square.
house or anything to do with that road right now. It's
All
nothing to
right.
do with me anyway.
Mr. Chair,
Makes sense,
Yes.
though, if this-
does Big Lake Township require a driveway access permit when the new home is being built?
The scales don't match if it's 67 feet from here to here.
But he'll have one.
He's got that from that shed point. How he gets to the house is a mystery at this point.
Well, there is no house right now, but when someday, if he wants to build a house on the property, will he be required to get a
6 feet.
driveway access permit if indeed that is Township Road right-of-way to the west side of this property?
I don't know the answer to that
Okay.
technically. I don't know.
Okay.
but even if he is building, he owns all of that, so he could use the road or the driveway and park his supplies back there and get in and out also.
Well, I think,
He owns all that, it's his.
yeah. So I think at this,
But I
You'd
really
see
don't
it.
have a plan on going back to that area too much.
so at this point, I think that's a moot point. He's got a driveway, got a permit to build a new driveway for what Mr. Greenland said, so he can access the new shed. And what he does with the house in the future, he can either join forces with you people and help maintain that, or he can go off the existing driveway that he's going to be putting in. So,
That's a discussion for the future.
that's a future discussion, so.
Yeah, that's not.
So I
part of the
think
application.
it's a concern that Mr. Ockman should be aware of, but it's not, it doesn't affect this.
I've already kind of
Discussion.
thought that out.
All right.
Yep. Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ike.
question for Mr. Glines.
Yes.
Now, that bold orange line that's labeled 67-foot setback, does that apply to the platted township road easement? Scales don't match. Is that a 67-foot setback east of the township road? Was that supposed to represent?
Yep, to the right-of-way of the township road.
Well, then that township road has about,
Oh, it's about 20 feet wide, yeah, it's not 66.
it's a 20-foot.
That's narrow.
Ike?
Those,
So I believe that this plat was called Birch Acres, and I think years ago, back in the 90s, Big Lake Township went through and determined where they needed additional right-of-way, and I think that if you look where the X is over that building, underneath there, you see the parcel ID number. If my recollection is correct, Big Lake Township owns 1205.
Yep.
1215, and then to the west, 1360 and 1310. That's all part of their road right-of-way that they had taken back in the mid-90s, I think.
Okay.
And they eliminated, so between 1205 and 1360, there's a little strip of right-of-way that went up. Back in the day, that was a right-of-way that went all the way to the north, that was part of the plat that was done way back in probably the 1920s.
Okay.
That was eliminated and probably went back to the property owners. But the township, I'm guessing, elected to keep to the east that strip where you can see that driveway comes in between 1215 and 1105.
Uh-huh.
So you have right-of-way there, and you also, I believe, have right-of-way where the neighbors had talked about their road goes up. That's at least the way that I'm reading this, but I do recall we were given a special map in Birch Acres years ago where they deemed which roads they were keeping and which roads they were, I don't know if vacating is the correct term, back to the adjoining property owners.
So, but the right-of-way width in Birch Acres then on that north-south road along the west side, that's how many feet wide?
Because as Mitch had stated on 1205 where the X goes through it, it's in the township right-of-way.
Yeah.
So 1205 is part of the township's right-of-way. Is that
Understood.
correct, Mitch?
Yeah, I would say that the right-of-way that Ike's talking about is probably about 20 feet wide. This driveway is probably
The north-south,
10.
what the neighbors are considering a driveway, they're maintaining it. What is the right-of-way width of that?
I don't know that without measuring that on Beacon. I don't know that answer off the top of my head.
Yeah.
One car length.
Yeah, it's not very wide.
If a neighbor's coming in and you're coming, you're backing up,
Yep.
cause you're not getting two cars in.
I wouldn't even say it's 20 feet,
Yeah.
honestly.
I was gonna guess it was 20 feet wide.
At the most.
Well, the road, but the road wouldn't be 20.
I'm talking about the
the
right-of-way was
Oh,
20.
okay, yep.
Yep,
I get what you're
If the
saying.
car is about 9
That'd be
feet
my
wide,
guess.
you got about 820.
But even now, like.
Still
you
doesn't
said,
look
you can-
proportionate
You can
to
get
me.
two cars through that.
No, it's like a plow and a
If
half.
it's a 20-foot right-of-way width, then that's, the distance from the east side of that is 67 feet as shown here.
It's a quagmire.
zoning will require that he is 67 feet back from the right-of-way when they pull the permit for that shed,
Right.
from both the south and the east.
So
If his
I
map
know
isn't
that-
100% correct here, he may have to get a survey to make sure that it's staked in the correct position.
But I know this isn't an issue tonight, but that proposed house is
Right.
gonna be right dead on top of the right-of-way if that's the case. That's gonna be a variance, of course.
Yeah, that's already, we know that.
But they own that land to the east, so they could shift that further to the east and build in the area there where Mitch is moving the mouse.
That I can see.
Yep, that's gonna be their only location where they can meet all the setbacks, I would guess.
Yeah, that makes sense then.
Yep.
All right.
Put your driveway, you would have to share it with us.
Is there, we still have the public, we still have the public hearing open. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this issue? A second and a third, hearing none, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion here.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor to close the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose same sign. Motion passes. What would the board wish to do on this?
Seems pretty neat and clean, meet all the setbacks, and it's a go with the conditions.
All right. So with the four conditions, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. We'll go to the findings.
All right, ready, Butch? Number one, that the conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish and impair property values within the immediate vicinity.
The proposed use is a personal storage structure and is not anticipated to diminish or impair values within the immediate area.
Number two, that the establishment of the conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area.
The proposed use will be used as a personal storage building and complies with all zoning regulations. The applicant has demonstrated that the placement of the building will not impede the ability to build a home on this lot in the future. Granting of the CUP will not impede surrounding development.
Number three, that adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities have been or are being provided.
Sufficient space is available for utilities, access, and drainage for the personal storage building and the future home.
Number 4, that adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide sufficient, excuse me, off-street parking and loading space to serve the proposed use.
The applicant has sufficient parking space to accommodate the proposed use.
And number 5, that adequate measures have been or will be taken to prevent or control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, and vibration so that none of these will constitute a nuisance, and to control lighted signs and other lights in such a manner that no disturbance to neighboring properties will result.
It is not anticipated to cause offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, or vibration to the immediate area. It will be used as a personal garage.
Thank you.
All right.
Can I verify that all of those answers were yes, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for the record. We've gone through motion and a second. We've gone through the findings. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Motion passes. On to item number 4. We have KAP Real Estate Holding LLC. This is legal lot number 2, block 1, Spanky's Corner, second edition, section 24, township 33, range 28 west. The address is 19636 200th Avenue Northwest in Big Lake Township. It's a 4.4 acre site, commercial district, and with the shoreline district of Beulah Pond. Mitch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, CAP Real Estate Holding is requesting to get a conditional use permit for mini storages in Spanky's Corner. Spanky's Corner is zoned commercial, however, with it being on a natural environment lake, one of the conditions of the plat was that all uses get a conditional use permit. This was sent to Big Lake Township. They recommended approval. At the time this was sent out, City of Big Lake did not provide any comments, but they did provide, and I'll go over those in a bit. Tom Cruikshank with MnDOT, they will have no issues with the proposed conditional use permit. James Bedell with the DNR. Only comment he has for this is that there should be a provision in their approval that states vegetation coverage must be maintained or restored so that structures are screened appropriately. Seth Hansen with the Big Lake Fire Chief. If the units are single story, I am fine with what is proposed. The units are single story. So the applicant is proposing to develop this with 5 separate storage building or units. The property will be constructed in phases with 2 buildings on the east side and west side of the property, line built first. Their goal is to see a full build out in the next 5 to 6 years. Again, this is a commercially zoned property and mini storage is a permitted use, but a condition of the plat, as I stated, does require a conditional use permit. There are civil plans that were submitted. Impervious surface, there was a variance for this plat that they could exceed the 25%, and so it'll be at 50% impervious. They will require a NPDES permit for the stormwater, and then facilities will be accessible 24 hours a day. Getting back to Big Lake Town, or City of Big Lake's comments, there were, so when Spanky's Corner was platted, there wasn't a road to go to the east side of the property. So this was from the city planner, Lucinda Spaniard. Thank you for the opportunity to review and comment on this application. Is our recommendation that the right-of-way for the frontage road extend to connect to the property to the east of the city to facilitate orderly future development. If the right-of-way is unattainable at this time, then space should otherwise be reserved for future right-of-way via site design or easement. So we did do, once we received that, we did do a lot of homework on this one. What they're suggesting is this city-owned property right here. There's a stub road here, and then as you can see, there's nothing right here to connect to that. On paper, it looks like it would be feasible, but actually when you look at this parcel itself, this is that natural environment lake, and you cannot have roads within the 150-foot setback. If we were to do that, basically this whole lot is taken over by that 150-foot setback. This was platted back in the 70s, I believe, or replatted maybe in the 90s for these twin homes. This has become, the wetland was down here, it's come up around here. So development of this parcel we don't even know if it's feasible. But getting back to what the city was requesting about either a right-of-way or leaving it vacant, nothing is proposed within this, which would be a future easement. This is a retention pond that will be there, and I can comment on this one. So this will be what is in this. If they extended this to the east in the future, there would have to be some reshaping of this. But again, once we kind of went over it with the city about that property being, we don't even know if it's developable, then they understood that. And so again, with this layout, nothing will be in that future right away to the east if that's what they need in the future to connect to the city property.
All right. Thank you very much, Mitch. Applicant here? Thank you.
Kristen Paff, 16568 Maplewood Road, Cold Spring, Minnesota.
All right, do you have anything else to add to the information tonight?
I don't think so. Mitch covered it pretty well.
All right. You understand the conditions that are listed?
I do.
All right. And are there any questions from the board?
I have one.
Ike, please.
It's not all pertinent to this, but on the structural plans, they're listing the address as being in Princeton?
Those are just renderings. We don't have the building plans yet because of needing the approval first, so that's what structural provided for, just giving the renderings of what the buildings will be like.
I see.
All right, that answers your question then, Ike?
That answers it.
Just stock drawings, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak? All right, anyone wishing to speak? And a third time. Looking for a motion to close the public hearing?
Let's close it.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
What is the desire of the board on this matter?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve, subject to the 10 recommended conditions.
All right, motion to approve. Is there a second?
A second.
We've got a motion and a second. Let's go to the findings.
Thank you. Number one, that the conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish and impair property values within the immediate vicinity.
Yes, the proposed use will not be in conflict with existing businesses within this subdivision.
Number two, that the establishment of the conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of the surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area.
Well, the response is yes. The proposed use will not impede normal development of surrounding property. This property is zoned commercial, and there are existing commercial buildings on the west side of this property.
Number three, that adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities have been or are being provided.
Yes, the applicant has had civil plans prepared that demonstrates the ability to manage stormwater on site and not directing it towards Beulah Pond or off their property.
Number four, that adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide sufficient off-street parking and loading space to serve the proposed use.
Yes, the applicant has sufficient parking space to accommodate the proposed use.
And number five, that adequate measures have been or will be taken to prevent or control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, and vibrations, that none of these will constitute a nuisance, and to control lighted signs and other lights in such a manner that no disturbance to neighboring properties will result.
Yes, it is not anticipated to cause offensive odors, fumes, dust, noise, and vibration to the immediate area. No work will be completed outdoors.
Thank you.
All right, we've reviewed the findings. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Item number 5, we've got discussion set for the cannabis mandate. Who wants to handle this one?
Yes, so this is an ongoing thing. As you've seen, I don't have anything other than what's in this packet. Basically, we've gone out to the townships. We only have Livonia on Monday, and Big Lake and Orac on Wednesday. So we have sent this memo to all the townships. I've gotten one back from San Diego and one back from Palmer. And so what we are requesting is that with a matrix that was sent out, basically we did the licenses that Office of Cannabis Management, what they will license as far as cultivation, manufacturing, meso business, micro business, retail. We just want to know where you think those should be in the townships. Obviously, some townships are going to be impacted, other ones won't be. We're looking at like retail, we see those more in the hamlets as far as Palmer, San Diego, Orac. So this is what we've sent out. And basically, we just want to know if you approve of this, if you don't, what you would like to see different. We also need to know basically how many retailers we want. Right now, as it sits, the county can have 9, 1 per 12,500 residents.
We have to have a minimum of 9.
Minimum of 9, based off the population. So we want to know, obviously the cities will have some. We want to know how the townships feel, if you want any in your township, or if you want all the cities to have them, if you want the county to regulate. The Office of OCM has made it so that municipalities can do their own regulation, zoning for it. We anticipate the townships would just want the county to do the enforcement for it, but we would just, in that memo that was sent out, that is one thing that we are asking. So it's going to be, the questions for the town board are, does the town board want to affirm that the county will oversee the registration and enforcement? The county's considering our options as how many retail licenses we should offer. One minimum, like I said, 1 per 12,500. Does the township want to stay at the minimum, or should additional retail licenses be allowed? What that means is that if minimum is 9, and say we take City of Elk River and Princeton and part of St. Cloud into account, I mean, they could do all 9 right then, and then no hamlets are allowed to do it. But if that's what we're working with the attorney's office right now, if we want to keep the city separate and just focus on where we have the jurisdiction over, that is another thing that we need to hear from the townships. And then again, the matrix, if you approve of what staff is recommending, and we've done workshops with the county board to kind of get an idea to keep moving forward on this. So that is where we're at right now. Again, like I said, we have 3 more townships next week, and then we would have seen presented at all of them our cannabis presentation. So.
And then we anticipate the middle of October will be at the township, what do we call that group?
Call it SCAT meeting.
SCAT meeting, thank you. We'll be at the township SCAT meeting in the middle of October, and then for Planning Commission next month, we'll be bringing you the proposed ordinance, having the public hearing for the proposed ordinance, asking for a recommendation from you, and then if everything goes well, it'll go to county board in November. If we run into any bumps or issues or concerns, then it could come back instead in December to the county board, but we do need to get that approved before the end of the year.
So, when I look at this, I'm assuming that you're looking at this as a county-wide chart
Correct.
and not trying to, this one no, this one no. I mean, it's pretty much all or nothing.
It's all by zoning district. So some of your townships don't have general rural in it, so that portion of this chart does not apply to you. And so whatever applies to your specific township, we'd like you to focus, if possible, on those specific districts.
Because we do have commercial.
Yep.
Correct.
So Palmer would be agricultural, commercial, industrial.
And industrial. And again, you can't just say, well, Palmer, commercial, you can't have it there.
Correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
I believe they've written this so that you can almost not disallow it.
The state of
Well-
Minnesota does not want it disallowed. The state has written the rules that it's not like a sexually oriented business where you do have to have a place for those, but we very much so have limited where those are located. The cannabis regulations don't necessarily allow that.
But I'm assuming that with the limited infrastructure that we have in Palmer, that it wouldn't be viable for somebody to go
Set
in
up
there
shop.
with a large commercial.
So we see, like a Palmer, we would see it maybe in the commercial retail. One thing we're looking at, and we could anticipate, is the micro business. There's a few endorsements as far as cultivation, manufacturing, wholesale, retail, and on-site consumption. We're trying to see how we can work that into like a home business and accessory if somebody wants to grow something in a garage, but we would want that retail endorsement not to be allowed. So we'd say, okay, you can grow it, you can manufacture it, but you can't sell it on site to customers or, obviously use it on site. So that's kind of what we're working with, because,
I mean, people are willing to drive up to Red Lake to pick this stuff up.
yep.
I don't think we need to have one on every corner and make it easier. And I would definitely like to see the minimum allowed just to get this taken care of.
Mr. Chair, so
Yes.
Bill basically falls under general rural. But one of their concerns during the meeting was the number of retail being taken up by the cities. So as you mentioned, not allowing the hamlets to have any. So that was their one concern. So they do agree with the minimum, but how are we going to address any of those extra ones if they're all taken up by the cities?
And the county was discussing, and Gary, maybe you can help me with this. The county was discussing that, if we have X number that are allowed, and then you factor out the city ones, we should leave something for the township to have some retail, because we already have, I believe it's the hemp-related.
Low potency edibles.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what it's called, but apparently they're already in Palmer, they're already in
San Diego and
San
Aurora.
Diego, and already in Orac. So, you could end up with some of this retail in some of those smaller areas. And, it is an opportunity for someone to potentially start a business. And the county, from what I gather, Gary, correct me if you got a different feeling, some of the board members would like to see some opportunities out there in these specific areas. So at least it may be an option, but limited.
Yeah, I think mainly we were concerned that, like Francine is saying, that, the if outside outlying areas wouldn't have an opportunity. So if the city of Elk River, city of St. Cloud, city of Princeton is gonna regulate it themselves, they can have as many, basically, if they want, they can set their own regulations. If they want 10 of them in the city of Elk River, fine. We wanna save the other 9, for the outlying areas of the county. Is basically the way I understood it. We could write the ordinance that way to make it, so we could say 5, that we want to say 5, or all up to the full 9 that were allowed. But if we're the ones have the jurisdiction over it, we'll put that number on that. But the cities in St. Cloud could have them all over the place. I don't see that happening, but I agree that, Palmer, Blue Hill, Orac, Santiago, those areas might want one retail, that they want to have, and we want that opportunity to be there for them. Because the genie's out of the bottle on this whole thing. This is going to happen. And I think that we've been told already that you can expect it to be revisited every year. This is going to change. This is a completely fluid situation, because there's nothing, this is all just a guess, big old crapshoot of what this is going to be like.
Yeah, what we were told is that you can expect the state legislature is going to be changing the rules on a continual basis every year. So we're going to be every year trying
Well,
to
and that could
probably keep
include
up,
the opportunities that some people didn't get
possibly.
this first go-around. And and if there is if there's an opportunity for retail in Palmer, so be it. Supply and demand. There's no demand for it, or if it isn't financially viable, it won't stick around.
But it also involves, the setbacks for parks, churches, you know, schools, things of that nature. We'll limit that within some of these hamlets that might be there. So that's another thing that has to be considered too.
So I got a question, because I'm ignorant on this. So could someone come into Zimmerman or Palmer Township? Just like here a few months ago, we passed a wine bar deal, I believe it was in Big Lake Township they grow up their own grapes and a little wine bar, a couple weekends a month. Is this something that someone could come in Blue Hill Township and grow their stuff? Have like a wine bar, except
It's a pot bar.
I think.
Go ahead, say it, pot bar.
I mean, I'm just, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, is this, I guess I don't is that viable under these conditions? I guess.
That would be considered a micro business, what you're referencing, because a micro business allows you to grow. Mitch, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. It allows you to grow and it allows you to do retail and smoke it on site. And so if you look at the micro business chart under general retail, it's an interim use permit.
In a rural.
I'm sorry, general rural. It's an interim use permit, but in the general rural district, so, you know, in a residential neighborhood, in the general rural district, it would not be permitted to do any retail because it's not zoned commercial in the general rural.
See, we have a commercial area behind the town hall with lots that somebody could put up a building.
But is it near parks? And are there any
Well, the park
defaults
is,
there?
the park is a half a mile away. I don't know what the restrictions,
I think the restriction is you can be closer than a
500
half
feet.
mile.
500 feet?
Very far.
No.
Yeah.
Still possible.
Oh, yeah.
So any comments that the township want to provide to us, we greatly appreciate, so that can help us get this ordinance firmed up and get this out so that we can put it on the next planning commission for approval. And I'm
I
sure
mean,
it'll
we
be a
wanna
work in
minimize
progress.
this, but we can't stop it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's here to stay.
The county board had a consensus, you know, we had a workshop in regards to this, and our definite break was the difference between the meso and larger. The micro is where we have to, in the township areas and have to regulate it harder, because, you know, they can do it all. They can grow, manufacture, sell, and consume all on site. So some of it was acreage. We were above 5 acres. They have to have above 5 acres, I think is what we were saying, not 5 acres and below. It was 5
I
acres.
think I'd mentioned going to 6,
6, so that it was above
try to
that,
alleviate
because
some of the
that's where we have to
residential.
put it in, because when you get above the other ones, the electrical consumption, the water consumption, all of the things that are in there, these are gonna be big companies that are doing this. This isn't, you know, Uncle Don growing pot and selling it in a house. You know, that's gonna happen. That's where we can regulate it. But it's the ones that are above, those aren't, we're not worried about them violating anything. They're gonna follow all the rules that are in place. It's the ones that are below.
Like Gary, look at the screens. These are the number of licenses that social equity applicants, and then the maximum. But look at the fees. You know, like Gary's saying, cultivator, it's $10,000 application fee, $20,000 license fee, and a $30,000 renewal. These are not going to be your
These are the fees to the
residential.
state, not to us.
Yeah, hobbies.
Just to
Yeah,
be
these aren't
clear.
hobbies. Yeah. But then when you get back down to micro business, this is where we can see it, because it's only a $500 application fee with a $2,000 renewal fee. And then you can see like events, you know, these are smaller ones where we can see people doing it. They're like the meso businesses, 5,000, 5,000, 10,000 renewal. So those are the ones we're seeing bigger corporations, yes, rule followers, where the micro business for how little it is and the renewals, that's where we're seeing probably somebody with a garage that wants to do.
Well, and it's one thing to have a micro business and supply it for the residents. But I don't want to have a micro business that pulls them in from all over.
No, I mean, we're anticipating the micro business would be cultivating, manufacturing, but then selling them to the retailers. So, you know, the retailers, and OCM is going to be very involved with the licensing and regulating of these businesses. So it's not just on the county level to make sure that they're following our rules. I mean, they have the state rules that they gotta.
And the other thing to take into consideration here is if you look at that chart again, looking under mezzo business, which is the large, where you can raise it, the state's saying a maximum of 50 permits are gonna be, or licenses are gonna be issued between now and July 1st of 2026. So in the first year and a half, they're only gonna issue 50 of those statewide. Are we gonna end up with one here? Who knows? But, you know, they're not gonna be on every corner.
One of the concerns we had in the micro businesses in the rural areas, the townships, and, you know, it was a big concern of mine is if you're growing 5,000 square feet of pot, 24 hours a day, I'm sorry, I used the word pot. It's, I don't,
what it
it's
is.
too formal to me. I'm using the word pot.
70s, yeah.
Okay. If you got 5,000 square feet, and you're growing that, you know, you got to worry about all of the waste water is going into septic system. So what's going into septic system? It's a commercial agricultural business, basically. So you're going to be putting fertilizers, chemicals, fungicides, all of that into the septic systems. That raises red flags to me. I mean, that is a concern I have in regards to everything.
You aren't gonna be able to grow the bacteria that helps you with your septic, I'll tell you that.
Right. And then the other problem is waste. What are you gonna do with all the waste, the clippings and all of that? Is that gonna just go into the landfill, into the dumpster? You know, those are some, that's why I'm saying that the
Cattle
townships.
feed?
Yeah, cattle feed, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, where's it going? Are they gonna dump it out into the
We
the
have
area and just
cattle.
let it, you know, decompose? I mean, those are some real questions that have to be answered. And you know, no matter what rules you put in place, there's gonna be people that aren't gonna follow them. We all know that. And from zoning, they're gonna try and get zoning differences on houses. They'll try and do what we put this in through. They're gonna find ways to get around this or not pay the permit fees for it. They're gonna be growing and giving it to a manufacturer and selling it under the cuff. It's gonna happen. But, so that's why I think we had a hard cut, I think Andrew and I and stuff, that we weren't too concerned about the ones that were gonna pay these substantial licensing fees to get it, that they were gonna follow the rules. It's the ones that are below that are gonna, I'm not gonna do that, you know, and what the fines were gonna be if they violated that. You know, so those are things to consider. This whole thing is like drinking from a fire hose.
Well,
It's like building a house with no plan.
and I've talked to people in other states
Exactly what it is.
that, they said the only way this works is if you have the final product cheap enough to be able to, overtake the street stuff.
Mhm.
Otherwise, forget it. It'll always,
How is it supply?
Yeah. That supply's not going away.
right, and there's some big numbers here.
Right. Big numbers. But from an economic standpoint, you know, and they want to come in and start a business and do this, great. But correct me if I'm wrong, but when you talk about the cultivation of that, some of the meso businesses in that, wasn't it 3 box stores? 1 megawatt to 2.5 megawatts of power.
It was
It was huge.
a small solar field.
It was an enormous amount of power that's gonna take to do this.
And like we said, the one that was permitted in the city of Elk River, they only had a few conditions, but one of the main conditions was must work with Elk River municipal utilities on energy use.
Just to get power to the building.
Yeah.
So somebody does this in the rural area and leave your lights on, grow lights for 24 hours a day, their electric bill is gonna be huge.
Boy, that drinking from a fire hose, that's a good comparison. Lot to be learned in a short amount of time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is coming out to the townships and,
Yep.
ways for our,
Your comments, yep, and we'd like your comments before the next planning commission meeting.
October 17th.
Yes, please. Thank you.
all right. I believe we covered all of our business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I will make that motion to adjourn.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you for your patience and your help. Is this one yours, or this
That
just
is
got laid up?
yours. I already got mine.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You have to replace that in your.
I'm so sick of the word cannabis